As a company focused on Microsoft 365 and the Azure cloud environments, you have a unique perspective on the future of cloud technology.
Technology is something that's been changing rapidly over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Listeners, the road to entrepreneurship is never straightforward, but it always filled with stories of growth and learning.
We saw that back in 2015, and that's why we decided to bet on Microsoft and basically become a Microsoft partner. That really influenced our decision to jump into a partnership.
Today, we will explore the journey of an entrepreneur who has transitioned from software development to becoming a leader in cloud-based solutions. Our topic revolves around the evolution of technology, the modern workplace, and the impact of AI. Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm your host SK, and we are back with another exciting episode. This show is dedicated to small and medium-sized enterprises, focusing on their role in driving our economy and community growth. Our guest today is ARIK Kalininsky, the founder and CTO of Dalikoo. ARIK's career began at a young age, and over the years, he has made significant contributions to technology, cloud services, and cybersecurity. Good afternoon, ARIK, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. It's really an honor to have you on our show today. You have a unique entrepreneurial journey, with a background in both technology and leadership. Let's start by discussing your journey from software development to founding Dalikoo. ARIK, can you share what led you to become an entrepreneur and start Dalikoo?
Sure. So I've been in the business for over 20 years, starting as a sysadmin, a developer, server room operations, and so forth, and growing through the ranks. And basically, my last corporate job was a CIO, CTO, VP of IT, if you will. And we've developed a lot of good solutions, that helped customers, helped the business, and so forth. At some point, I thought it's a good time to try to venture out and develop something for myself. And that was the first step towards founding Dalikoo.
Okay. And how is the experience so far?
It's been 9 years, so it's we're not a startup anymore. It's been a journey. Running your own business is obviously difficult, a lot more difficult than anything else. However, it's very rewarding because what we put out, software solutions, any type of corporate environment and so forth, we put it out the way we want it, and we have our brand on it, and we see the good that it's doing out there, and that's very rewarding.
Okay. And can you shed light on how your previous roles influence your approach to building the business?
Of course. As a CTO, CIO, I worked with a lot of vendors that offered solutions, and we were the ones hiring the vendors. We saw what makes a good vendor, what makes a less than good vendor. I'm not going to say anything bad, but what's less than ideal for vendor. And I think, or vendor operations. And I think that I learned a lot from interacting with the various vendors and the various business stakeholders and so forth. And that really influenced the premise of what Dalikoo is all about.
Yeah, it's truly inspiring to hear about your journey and the factors that shaped your success. Listeners, the road to entrepreneurship is never straightforward, but it always filled with stories of growth and learning. ARIK's journey from software development to running a successful cloud technology business is nothing short of inspiring. You won't want to miss these insights if you have got that entrepreneurial spirit. So now let's discuss about the business strategy and the values. Building a successful business requires a strong strategy and core values. What is your guiding approach to doing business, and how does it differentiate Dalikoo from other tech companies?
So, following up on what I said in regards to learning from vendors and so forth, there's multiple types of solution providers out there. There are solutions. There's providers that are there to solve a problem. Managed services, operations, and so forth. They come and they solve a problem. You have a problem with AT, they solve it. You have a problem. You need an app, need an application, they solve it. Our value is a little different. We're not necessarily there to solve problems. We're there first and foremost to identify problems. We are looking at what makes the business work, how to maximize revenue, profit, how to help businesses reach their own goals and identify potential problems, pain points, and so forth that they may have. Once we identify those problems, we then move into various options to resolve the problem and move forward. We're creating a partnership with our clients. We're there to be for the journey. We're helping him with the journey, and that I think is a big differentiator between Dalikoo and many other vendors out there.
Okay. As we are talking about the values, can you give us an example of how these values have positively impacted your business?
Sure. The one of the biggest impact that we see is that customers that hire us, that we're lucky enough to be hired by and to do any type of work, software development, provisioning of systems, migration, integration, and so forth. Most, actually, as a matter of fact, I think all of the customers that started with us are still with us. They're still with us because they value the partnership, they value the fact that we come in and we see, I don't want to use a cliche like big picture, but we're seeing where issues are from a business perspective, not technology. Technology is really not that important to a business. It's a means to an end. It's something that you use to, succeed in business, to achieve your goals. Again, business goals, not technology goals. We see that, and customers, I think, value that, and for that reason, we're going with them along for the ride.
Okay. Eric, can you share any tips with our listeners, like how they can differentiate their business with their competitors?
So you have to bet on the right approach. You have to come up with a value and not just say the value. You have to practice the value. You have to actually be there for customers. You have to, walk alongside the customers and help them out. You have to advise. Sometimes you have to, declare bad news, but it has to come from a point of trust. If you establish that, and this is not easy, this is very hard, but if you establish that, I think that you become this trusted entity. That would be a big differentiator for anyone that's listening to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Eric, for sharing your advice with our listeners. Understanding your approach to business is valuable for many of our listeners, especially those starting their own ventures. Folks, we are hearing some incredible stories of resilience and determination. Eric has faced significant hurdles, but each became a stepping stone to success. If you are feeling stuck or overwhelmed, this is the encouragement you need to keep going. Stay tuned for the keys to overcoming challenges. Now let's discuss about the challenges and how to overcome them. Every entrepreneur, as you know, and everyone knows, faces challenges along the way. What were some of the biggest hurdles you encountered and how did you overcome them?
So one of the biggest and most obvious hurdle is that we are a Microsoft partner, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not the only Microsoft partner. There's probably 10, 50,000 of us, right, that are Microsoft partner. Some of them are much bigger than us, a lot more resources. And that's always something that I'm not going to call a challenge, but that's something that we have to keep our mind focused on, because there are other partners, Microsoft partners, that could offer the same solutions, the same approach, and so forth. And we just have to find out a way to be better, different, to offer more value. This is an evolution. It's not a one-time thing. We always have to be kept on our toes and always offer more value. The other thing, which could be potentially a segue to a next topic, is that, if you look at our field, which is technology and business, or marriage of technology and business, technology is something that's been changing rapidly over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's not like anything else. Every 3 years, there's something else that's like a complete paradigm shift. Keeping up with it is not easy.
Yeah, really, it's not easy.
Being the best at this always is not easy because it always changes. If you knew how to do something 5 years ago, that doesn't mean you know how to do it now. So we're always learning. Myself, the team, we're always basically keeping, up with everything that Microsoft is throwing at us, and it's a lot.
Right. And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are facing similar challenges?
be prepared to work hard. Uh, so I mean, some of the people, some of the businesses out there, and so forth. Some businesses get lucky, and they stumble on a windfall, and life is good. But I think that for the most part, establishing your brand, establishing a presence, establishing a trust, and I'm going to say trust a lot because that's important. Establishing trust is hard work, and that's the advice. The advice is be prepared to roll up the sleeves and be there.
Right, as you rightly said, like, establishing trust is very, very difficult, and it's very hard, and it's a time taking, and to lose trust and reputation, it doesn't take time, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. Thank you for tuning into the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We are going to take a quick break. Stay with us, and we will be right back with more insights and stories from the heart of small business.
You dreamt big. You made the leap. You and your "we're not stopping at small" business. Doesn't matter you've never done it before. You unlock those problems. You adapt to change. You learn to evolve. You're pioneers in challenging times, finding your own frontiers. Wherever you e-commerce, UPS is with you. So nothing is going to hold you back.
Nope.
Constant Contact delivers the marketing tools your small business needs to keep up, excel, and grow. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall.
Welcome back to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Let's continue our journey into the inspiring small business world, full of innovation and passion. AI is transforming the business world, and ARIK is at the forefront of this revolution. We have discussed how AI shapes business operations, innovation, and growth. If you are curious about how AI can impact your business, you are in for a treat. Let's explore these cutting-edge developments together. Now let's discuss about the role of AI in business. Like now AI has become a key element in modern business. How has Microsoft influenced your approach to building software solutions, and what impact do you see it having on the Canadian business landscape?
That's a big question. That's a big question. Like, it could take me all day to answer it, but I'll try to get to the point. There's a lot of technology providers out there, the giants, the Microsoft, the Googles, Amazon with AWS and so forth, Meta now and whatnot. When we started Dalikoo back in 2015, we looked at the landscape of what's out there. We found that Google offers a fantastic front end with the Office suite, the Google Workspace suite. They keep on changing it, whatever it's called now. It has a very nice, robust front end, but the back end wasn't ready. There's no, you can't run payloads on the back end. It's just a bunch of Office suites. Amazon has a fantastic backend, AWS, right, where you can run amazing payloads and create a lot of infrastructure. There's nothing in the front. Back in 2015, the vision was that if you need a company that would do both, have a fantastic front end and a great back end, that would be Microsoft. Simply because they have Office, or Microsoft 365 as it's called now, in the front end, where you can do a lot of front end work. You have Excel, Word, SharePoint, all that other stuff. And the back end consisting of, your Exchange or Azure to run servers. You can establish entire infrastructure or AI infrastructures in the back end. We saw that back in 2015, and that's why we decided to bet on Microsoft and basically become a Microsoft partner. And that really, really influenced our decision to jump into a partnership in that space.
Okay.
As far as influencing the marketplace, Microsoft's obviously out there. Microsoft 365, hundreds of millions of subscribers. I don't have to tell you that. Azure, hundreds of millions of subscribers. it's a tool. You have to see it as a tool that's going to help small business. And I know the last 5 minutes or so I've been talking about technology. The message to the businesses is find a partner that could decipher all this technology for you and have you bet on the right provider and build your solutions, whether they're tech or something else. It could be lawyers, it could be accountants, it could be anything. It doesn't really matter. But build your solutions and build your services knowing that your trusted technology partner is the right bet.
Right, as you rightly said, many of the businesses, they are using, I think they are using multiple service providers. For ourselves, for our business, we are using Microsoft Office and we are using Google Workspace, and for hosting our website, we are using AWS.
Right. Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what happens with small business and larger business is that you have multiple billing points.
Right.
You have a lot of bills that you have to pay to different providers. And that's not a bad strategy because there's an old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? But if you want to centralize your billing, if you want to centralize your support, if you want to amalgamate everything so it's easier, the overhead is easier to handle, then looking at one provider that can provide various services helps. Another great advantage for having one provider providing all these services is the built-in integration. Currently, if you have AWS and you have Zoom or Skype or whatever, you need to build those integrations, right? You need to create the connectors and so forth. Having Microsoft and Dalikoo taking care of the whole thing, a lot of it is built in. You don't have to pay extra for building these connections. You don't have to pay extra for maintaining these connections. You don't have to go chase 5 different providers when something goes wrong. You just have the one provider. So on the one hand, multiple baskets for your eggs, not a bad idea. On the other hand, when something goes wrong or when you need something fast, you just want to talk to one provider.
Right. Thanks for sharing those important insight. Following on, can you share a moment when tech on premium cloud AI brought a significant change to your business?
So we've been using AI specifically, right? I think that was the question. We've been using AI specifically for the last 3 years. AI has been introduced really to the world. I think it was the end of 2021 when ChatGPT was becoming a big deal, early 2022, or was it the end of 2022? I forget.
End of 2022, November 2022, yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
This is when the world saw AI for the first part, and first time, and ChatGPT became a big deal. We've been using AI for at least a year and a half before that. There's something that's called Copilot for GitHub, which is the development piece for AI. That again is Microsoft platform. And as a matter of fact, we've been using it since 2021 to develop, to code. So at the beginning, it wouldn't write code. Actually, as a matter of fact, it still doesn't. However, now it gets to a point where you can ask it to run subroutines and objectives and create documentation for code. Right, so we saw a glimpse of what's to come about a year and a half before the world realized it, and then it was just a matter of time for when is all this good stuff going to start trickling into your spreadsheets, into your presentations, into your blogs, right? And when it happened, when ChatGPT came out, then we knew that Microsoft is obviously going to release something that's going to sit on top of Excel, on top of PowerPoint, on top of SharePoint. So they went and bought a big piece of ChatGPT and became the biggest owner of ChatGPT and so forth. And now ChatGPT, or the technology, is very well integrated in everything that Microsoft has to offer. It changed our business drastically because we don't just sell it now. We are the subject matter expert on it because we have so much usage out of it, basically a year and a half before many other companies. And a year and a half doesn't sound like much, but in technology, a year and a half is a whole generation.
Right, now this GenAI ChatGPT is also integrated in WhatsApp, also on LinkedIn. Yeah, so it's quite helpful. Now let's discuss about the future of cloud technology, Eric. As a company focused on Microsoft 365 and the Azure cloud environments, you have a unique perspective on the future of cloud technology. Like, where do you see AI technology heading in the next 5 years, and how do you think it will impact small and medium businesses in Canada?
So again, big questions, right? Cloud is, kind of old school thinking, right? Because it's a 5 year ago kind of scenario, 7 year ago kind of scenario, 10 year ago kind of scenario. I've been in IT for a long time, and what I've seen, is that when cloud was introduced, late 90s and so forth, there's a lot of fear in the industry because people were saying, okay, well, so many jobs are going to go now because you don't need as much IT, right? You don't need a server room. It's all going to go to the cloud, right? There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of books that were written on the subject and so forth. And cloud happened. Now everything's cloud-based. And the jobs are still there because now you have to maintain the cloud and so forth. So we saw the journey. What we're seeing right now is the same kind of scenario, maybe even slightly more accentuated when it comes to AI. Because when you talk to subject matter experts, they fear AI. AI is going to replace us. Skynet, Terminator, AI is going to, it's the end of the world and so forth. And those fears, I mean, I can't say whether they're justified or not, but they're definitely valid, right? And my advice is, if anything, AI is going to help us retain jobs. First of all, I see IT people as the keepers of AI. So everyone that was fearing for their jobs back in 10 years ago about what's going to happen to my job and so forth, now companies need you to keep AI, to make sure AI is valid. We'll talk about prompting in a second, that the prompts are there and done correctly and so forth. So I think that one of the things we have to look at is things are going to evolve. Some jobs are going to go. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us for small business and large businesses to get trained and get prepared for new jobs. They're not going to be more difficult. They would require potentially a different skill set, yes. But I think that's part of the constant evolution. It's not fun to do the same thing 40 years. It's a lot better to grow and become, more involved in what makes the world tick, right? How things shape up. So I see it as exciting times.
Right. Eric, can you share your thoughts on how small business owners can integrate AI into their business?
Sure. So there's a few immediate steps that they can do. And I'll talk about small business owners as a company, and I'll talk about employees that work for small businesses. As a matter of fact, one of the great things about technology is that it balances things out. And going back to cloud, in the 90s, before the 90s and so forth, before my time, a small business could not really compete with larger businesses because larger businesses had server rooms and server farms and so forth, and small businesses could not get it. Then the 90s, early 2000s and so forth, cloud came, and all of a sudden you can create payloads in the cloud and so forth, and it became a bit of an equilibrium, right? You can now compete. I think that AI is going to provide the same opportunity, and here's something that I would say. In about a year, maybe 2 years from now, if you don't use some artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, or Gen AI, then you're going to start falling behind because your competition is going to become faster, better, smarter, is going to beat you to market on everything. So start preparing. Maybe do not use it right now. I'm sure a lot of businesses use ChatGPT right now and so forth, but at the very least, look at doing assessments. Assess the usage of AI within your company. Do feasibility studies. One of the key things to remember is that AI, if it's just unleashed in your company, it could become dangerous because it would start seeing confidential information and so forth that you thought that are maybe secure, but they weren't secure. They were just hidden. There's no hiding anymore. right? So if you're serious about using AI, and I think a small business should be serious, do an assessment. Get a trusted partner to come in and work with you on creating a feasibility for deploying AI as a business owner. For employees, what I would say is start looking into how to use AI better. And the number one skill that I would recommend people use is prompting. Figure out how to do prompting better. Prompting is essentially the ability to speak to
Yeah.
AI, to Copilot, to Gemini from Google, and so forth. It doesn't really work like Star Trek, where you go, computer, I want to do such and such, and the computer answers exactly what you want to hear. It doesn't work like that. You have to become better at doing prompting and asking the right questions in order to get the right answers. And it's going to take a little bit of time, and I highly recommend that employees spend time on it.
Eric, your insights into the future of cloud technology and AI offer valuable guidance to all the businesses, like who are navigating this rapidly evolving landscape. Before we wrap up, Eric, could you share some advice for our listeners? What one piece of wisdom you would offer to entrepreneurs and small business owners looking to make an impact in their industry?
I would say the number one thing you need to look at is finding a trusted partner. And I'm not saying it has to be us.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Hire us.
As you rightly said, it's very, very important to find a trusting partner.
Find a partner you can trust in, because as you start using, I'm sure a lot of companies are using a cloud already, but as you evolve your cloud footprint, as you start looking at doing AI in a safe way, in a productive way, you will expose more and more of your company. And unfortunately, there's no way around that. If you want to compete 2 years from now, you have to look at it with an open mind and say, these are the tools I'm going to need. For that, you will need a trusted partner, because the company is going to be, you're going to basically show, the insides out of the company, right? Like everything, all the secret stuff, right? It has to be done right. Choose a partner, start with the big four, the Microsofts, the Google, and so forth as a technology. Then once you establish your provider, whether it's Microsoft, Google, AWS, and so forth, choose a partner that would come in and help you implement everything in a safe way that's productive. And it comes down to trust. Who do you trust to do the right job for you, and who are you going to take along for the ride? And that's my advice.
Okay, and also, Eric, how anyone who is interested in learning more about Dalikoo and they want to connect with you, can you share how they can get connected with you?
Sure. So we're pretty active on social media, on LinkedIn in particular. The website is dalikoo.com. So DALIKOO.com. As a matter of fact, if you go to customers.microsoft.com, where Microsoft publishes success stories, we have 3 success stories there as well. So if you go to customers.microsoft.com and you search for Dalikoo, you'll find us as well with contact details and so forth. And last but not least, contact you guys, and I'm sure that you can share our credentials as well, and we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric, for joining us today and sharing your story with our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to thank our exclusive partners, including our banking partner RBC, our shipping partner UPS, accounting software partner Xero, and our email partner Constant Contact for their unwavering support. To our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our official website, CanadianSME.ca. We look forward to having you with us in our next episode. Keep innovating and supporting local businesses.